The life of a farmer in eastern Washington during the late 1800s was one of perseverance, ingenuity, and hardship. During this period, the region was undergoing significant transformation due to westward expansion, technological developments, and the push for agricultural settlement. Eastern Washington's semi-arid climate, rugged terrain, and isolation posed unique challenges to farmers trying to eke out a living. Their struggles were compounded by economic pressures, environmental conditions, and social changes, which collectively shaped their existence. For many settlers, the decision to move to eastern Washington was driven by the promise of land ownership. The Homestead Act of 1862 allowed settlers to claim 160 acres of land if they lived on it and improved it for 5 years. This promise attracted families from the eastern United States as well as immigrants from Europe. However, the journey to Washington state was fraught with difficulties. Settlers traveled by wagon, enduring long and arduous treks through the rugged mountain passes and across treacherous rivers. Once they arrived, they were met with an environment vastly different from the fertile valleys they might have envisioned. Eastern Washington is characterized by its arid climate and rolling hills. Unlike the lush, rain-soaked regions of western Washington, the eastern side receives far less precipitation. While the land offered ample space for farming, it required innovation and determination to make it productive. The landscape's beauty belied the hardships that farmers faced in adapting to these conditions. Life on a new homestead was demanding from the outset. Farmers had to construct their homes, often using logs or sod, depending on the availability of materials. Sod houses, while practical, were vulnerable to leaks and pests. The winters were harsh, and the summers brought intense heat, requiring settlers to endure extreme weather conditions with limited shelter and resources. Clearing the land for farming was an enormous undertaking. Settlers had to remove sagebrush and other native vegetation before they could even plant crops. Without the aid of modern machinery, much of this labor was done by hand or with the help of draft animals. Building fences to protect the crops from wandering cattle or wild animals was another essential but exhausting task. Water scarcity would pose one of the greatest challenges. Farmers had to dig wells, construct irrigation ditches, or rely on rivers and streams to water their crops. The absence of reliable rainfall often meant that crops were at the mercy of unpredictable weather patterns. Those who managed to establish irrigation systems also found themselves limited by the technology and resources available at the time. Wheat would quickly become the dominant crop in eastern Washington due to its ability to thrive in dry climates. However, farming wheat on a large scale required substantial effort, from plowing the land to harvesting the grain. Early farmers used horse-drawn plows and harrows, but these tools were insufficient compared to later innovations. The introduction of the combine harvester in the 1880s would revolutionize wheat farming in the area, but such machinery was often prohibitively expensive for small-scale farmers. Economic struggles plagued many farmers in eastern Washington. They faced fluctuating market prices for their crops, often dictated by forces beyond their control. Railroads, while essential for transporting wheat to markets, charged high fees that cut deeply into profits. Farmers frequently found themselves caught in a cycle of debt, borrowing money to purchase equipment or expand their land holdings, only to see their earnings diminished by transportation costs or low crop prices. The semi-arid climate of eastern Washington presented persistent challenges to farmers. Droughts were a frequent and devastating occurrence, often leading to crop failures. Without modern irrigation infrastructure, many farmers could do little to mitigate the effects of prolonged dry spells. Conversely, sudden storms or hail could destroy entire fields in a matter of minutes. The fragile soils of the region were also prone to erosion, particularly when plowed extensively. The lack of crop rotation and other soil conservation practices further degraded the land, making it increasingly difficult to sustain agricultural production. Farmers had to contend with the harsh reality that the very land they depended on could be rendered unproductive through overuse. In addition to environmental challenges farmers faced, infestations of pests like grasshoppers, which could wipe out crops overnight. These natural adversities underscored the precariousness of farming life in eastern Washington. Life on the frontier was often isolating. Homesteads were spread out across vast distances, and transportation was limited. For many farmers and their families, the lack of social interaction added to the hardships of rural life. Women, in particular, bore the brunt of isolation, as they were often confined to domestic responsibilities while also assisting with farm work. Despite these challenges, communities gradually began to form. Small towns and trading posts emerged as centers of commerce and social life. Churches, schools, and social organizations provided opportunities for farmers and their families to connect and support one another. Events like barn raisings, harvest festivals, and church gatherings became vital for fostering a sense of community and mutual aid. The late 19th century was a period of rapid technological advancement, and farmers in eastern Washington benefited from innovations that gradually eased their burdens. The steel plow, invented earlier in the century, was crucial for breaking through the tough soils of the region. The mechanical reaper and thresher also reduced the labor required during harvest. The advent of railroads, while a source of economic struggle, also connected eastern Washington farmers to national and international markets. This connectivity allowed them to sell their wheat beyond local buyers, contributing to the region's emergence as an agricultural hub. However, not all farmers could afford these technological advancements. Many continued to rely on the older methods, which placed them at a disadvantage compared to the larger, more modernized farms. The struggles of farmers in eastern Washington during the late 1800s left an undeniable mark on the region. Their perseverance in the face of adversity laid the foundation for Washington's agricultural industry, which remains a cornerstone of the state's economy to this day. While life was undeniably hard for these pioneers, their resilience and determination exemplify the spirit of the American frontier. Their stories serve as a testament to the enduring human capacity to adapt, to innovate, and to thrive in even the harshest conditions. Through their labor and sacrifices, they transformed the arid landscapes of eastern Washington into fertile fields, paving the way for future generations to build on their legacy. In conclusion, the life of a farmer in eastern Washington in the late 1800s was one of constant struggle and adaptation. From battling environmental challenges to navigating economic pressures, These settlers faced immense obstacles with grit and determination. Their contributions not only shaped the region's agricultural landscape, but it also highlighted the resilience of those who dared to cultivate the land at the frontier of American expansion.